Welcome back, everybody, to Roxanne's House of Obsessions, and we are talking none other than House of the Dragon Episode 1. It finally premiered last night, Sunday, August 21st, 2022, and to be honest, it was so great having Game of Thrones back on my screen. I know it's not exactly Game of Thrones, but it is incredibly close, and I absolutely love it. It is the prequel to Game of Thrones, and honestly, I thought it couldn't be better. So, although I am a little biased because I do love this world so much, I am going to give my honest review and talk to you about some incredibly important scenes in it and my overall opinion. So, to start off, what I thought of the episode. To me, I thought the episode was fantastic. I think it was a very well done, well thought out episode, and incredibly impressive for being the first one. When I compare this first episode to the first episode of Game of Thrones, I see incredible parallels as well as huge differences. Now, the House of the Dragon first episode had much more action, a lot more suspense, and an incredibly amount of characterization. Now, the first episode of Game of Thrones, it gives you a sample of what is to come, and then a huge amount of characterization. There is not much action to it, however, they keep you on your toes learning about this world and really hyping you up about certain families, the kingdoms, and things like that. Well, since we already know about the big kingdom, they kind of could just skip all of that in House of the Dragon, which was really cool. However, we still needed to build those relationships with these characters, and I thought they did that so well with the scenes that they chose. Overall, I think it was fantastic the way it was played out. I think the music was so incredible, and the cinematography for it was absolutely amazing. So to start off, I do want to talk about a couple of really big major scenes. I'm going to start with a spoiler. If you haven't seen the first episode, that's all I'm going to be talking about in this video, so please go watch the first episode before you watch this. Now, I want to start with one of the biggest scenes in the entire episode, the Tyranny / birth scene. Now, I thought this scene was incredibly hard to watch because it is so grotesque. However, it is super impactful. It has a very mirror image of two different types of battlefields. You have this incredible, very knight-hooded, lanced-out tyranny meant for the new king to be birthed and to have this amazing celebration. And then on the other hand, the Queen Emma, is going to be doing her battlefield, which is giving labor. And she says it in an earlier scene when she's talking to the Princess Rinera. She says to her, birthing and labor is our battlefield. It is our way of, giving back to our kings and to our people. And she, the queen herself, has been giving labor for up to 10 years now. She has given birth, she has given stillbirths, she has had miscarriages, and she is just so defeated. And there's another scene in there where she tells her husband that this is the last one. This is all she can do. She is so defeated. She is so hurt. She's in pain. It's such a very intense scene. And honestly, I felt for her when she was saying that to him. She felt so sad and hurt and depressed that she just couldn't provide an heir for her king. And now she's here giving birth yet again, but in a very violent way. The baby is coming in backwards, and therefore they have to decide whether both the queen and the child die, or whether they open her up for a C-section and take the child out. Now, while that is happening, the king decides, yes, we're going to take the child out. And the look in the queen's eyes is so distrust and so sad and confused and angry, and she did a fabulous job acting. It was absolutely incredible seeing her, but it was just so violent seeing her being dragged and pinned down and having these people cut her open, all while the king is holding her hand saying that he loves her. And while that is happening, it is happening at the exact same time the Tyranny goes into a very violent outrage. And people start getting off their horse and they're fighting and, people are dying and it is crazy out there. They're just mass murdering each other, harming each other like crazy. And it really shows that both battlefields are incredibly violent. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. There is violence to be had in this world. And to me, that scene was incredibly impactful. I wanted to look away, but then I couldn't because, it was a crazy scene and it made me feel a lot of emotions. It also really stood out, Daemon Targaryen, played by Matt Smith, as a really interesting character. Now, that's going to tie into my Daemon Targaryen versus Hightower storyline. Now, this whole episode, we see Daemon Targaryen essentially battling out with Otto Hightower. Neither of them like each other, and both of them are just butting heads. However, King Viserys has entrusted both of them to be really big parts of their lives. And Daemon Targaryen, he is super reckless. He takes a hold of the gold cloaks, and he pretty much slaughters murderers and rapists, and he's trying to show that, look, you guys can't be doing this now that I run the gold cloaks. We will come, we will murder you, and that's that. And Hightower sees it as incredibly reckless, and he shouldn't be doing that, and he shouldn't be having all these things and thoughts and all this stuff. So it essentially creates this big bubble, and the bubble's gonna burst because they are both so incredibly angry at each other that they are just gonna be fighting each other the entire time. And so much so, you see when Daemon's in the Tyranny that he calls out Otto Hightower's son to battle him and essentially cripples him and damages him so bad. And then, if that wasn't enough, he then goes up to Otto's daughter, Allison Hightower, and asks for her favor, and she is delighted to do it, and he is smirking at her father like, look at this. I just took out your son, your daughter's swooning over me, oh, look at this. I am just, so much more above you. And that plays an important role in this. Because there's going to be some conflict between households. If you didn't learn that in Game of Thrones, you're going to learn that here because it is going to be drama-filled. Also, Hightower, to me, he is an incredibly interesting character. Although I have read the books, I'm not going to spoil the books at all in this. Hightower, to me, is an incredibly important character since the first episode just because he seems to have a plan behind everything he does. He stops Corlys Velaryon from talking about the pirates. He stops Daemon Targaryen from being the successor, being the king. He has this motive behind him as to something that he is really on, something behind, okay? You see him riding a raven to Old Town, and we do not see the context of what's inside that raven. So that makes it incredibly interesting on what he is essentially hiding. But if we've learned anything from Game of Thrones, we know that essentially every person in this universe wants power. And Hightower says a very similar line that if you don't want power in this world, you're not essentially going to be a part of it. And that goes to him too. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you think about him and his family and all of what he's really about, because he's going to play a really big role to come. Now, I also really want to talk about Princess Rinera and Allison's relationship. They have an incredible relationship in this. They seem to be really best friends. That's the only girl that she has that's around her age that she really can talk to and express her emotions, and vice versa. However, as we've seen in the trailers to come, it looks like they might be a little more distant as time goes on. They might, battle. I'm not too sure. And I'm not going to spoil anything. But I find it incredibly interesting seeing those scenes currently. One of the really cool scenes that I thought was when they're lying and Allison is trying to teach Rinera about Rinera, who is a famous woman warrior that went to Dorne born, and Rinera is just like, I just want to fly on dragons and eat some cake, which I thought was incredibly cute and really like gave to her character, but it also showed that like being a child in this world is incredibly difficult, and having that best friend to talk to really explores that and really allows her to open up. But she's not going to be able to just ride dragons and eat cake. You know, she's a noble. She's a part of the noble family. She has a duty to serve. And when she gets up, she says, like, I've already known all this history, basically. She tells them everything. And she's like, that's all you need to know. And she rips out the pages of the book, and she's like, fuck the SEPTA. You know, like, I'm going to do what I want. And to me, that made her character so unique and expanded her role in this. It made me really, really like her. I thought the actress that played Rinera was phenomenal. And she was honestly one of my favorites, besides Daemon Targaryen, played by Matt Smith, who I feel like stole every scene he was in. He was absolutely fantastic. But I do feel like a lot of this episode leads to a ton of foreshadowing for more to come. Now, I want to talk about the dragons we were introduced into this. So we first get introduced to Princess Rhaenyra's dragon, Cyrax. And Cyrax, although he is much larger than the dragons we have seen, he is going to be larger than Drogon. Same with Matt Smith's character's dragon. However, I really loved the colors and the way this dragon really interacted with Rhaenyra. I thought that was absolutely fun and incredible. When she gets off the dragon, you meet so many characters, like the Night Watch guard that is look for over her, and he says, you know, if that dragon ever kills you, you know, they're gonna have my head on a spike, which is so honestly perfect in this world, because it's very true, and it made me really, really like this character already. I felt like the connection between them was phenomenal, but the connection between Rhaenyra and her dragon was really something else. When we see the funeral scene, and she says, you know, the famous lines, Dracarys, and she's just like Khaleesi in that matter, you really see the parallels between them. However, the dragon kind of almost hesitates, and then he goes and does, and I really liked that. I thought the dragon, it kind of has a mind of its own, but is still really connected to Rhaenyra, and I really, really enjoyed that. We also got introduced to Daemon Targaryen's dragon, Cyrax, and Cyrax is larger than Cyrax, Rhaenyra's dragon. And he also has a much longer neck, and he's more snake-like, and he has a different way of moving, and to me, that was so cool. I thought the differences in the dragons was incredibly unique and really depicts them as unique beings rather than just like, oh, here's a bunch of dragons and they're just different colors. So I love that they're giving different characterizations to these dragons and really making them unique, and I absolutely love that. We will be seeing way more dragons in this, which I'm really, really stoked for, but I'm dying to see Daemon Targaryen with his dragon specifically. So that should be a really, really cool moment, and yeah, I can't wait to see that. So basically, for me, this episode 1 was pretty near perfect. I thought it was incredible, and honestly, I can't wait for episode 2. So much so, I'm probably going to watch this first episode every day this week until episode 2 comes out. Like I said, this is Roxanne's House of Obsessions, and I hope you stop by next week to talk about and discuss episode 2 with me. Have a great day.